Hello and welcome back to Beckler Guitars and Repair, and today we're checking out our first Eastman on the channel. So if you're not familiar with Eastman, these are custom shop level guitars crafted coming out of Beijing for a much lower price than a custom shop instrument. This is an SB55V. Let's take a look. So I've been super into single pickup guitars lately. There's just something about the tone and the simplicity of it. There's just one volume, one tone. And the last, I don't know, 5 single pickups guitars I've tried have just all sounded great. Something to do with maybe the less magnetic pull from the front pickup on the string. You're able to pick here without that other pickup getting in the way. I'm not sure what it is, but there's definitely something to it. And they all seem to have great tone. So Eastman guitars are handcrafted in Beijing, and they're known for having like custom shop level instruments for a lot lower prices. They're not super cheap. They are kind of expensive still. I believe this guitar retails for around $2,200 Canadian. But they don't use CNC machines. Everything is hand built using a lot of old methods like hand tools and stuff like that. And this guitar has got a ton of high-end specs. So we've got a one-piece body made of akume, which is very similar to mahogany, but a little bit lighter, but very similar in terms of properties of the wood. We've got one volume, one tone. We've got a Faber rat tail bridge. This is highly intonatable. It's got these set screws that you can adjust back and forth, but it's also got an intonation bar, almost kind of like a lightning bar that Gibson has, but a little bit more refined here. These are really high-end German hardware. And then we've got a dog ear Lolar or Lawler pickup, which Lawler pickups are considered, you know, top of the industry, super high quality pickups. They're not cheap either. So this is a really like top of the line pickup on here. We've got an ebony fingerboard. A really nice dark piece of ebony. That's a nice piece of ebony. Once you play it in or it gets worn in, it just turns into almost glass. Like super shiny, super smooth. We've got real mother of pearl dot inlays. We've got a bone nut and a little piece of ebony truss rod cover there, which is pretty classy. It's also got a single action truss rod just like a Gibson, and it looks the same. It has the same kind of a bolt. It's a little bit of a different size, but very similar. We've got our Eastman mother of pearl inlay on the headstock, and it looks very similar to a Gibson. We've got our open book, but the corners are just a little bit clipped, kind of like an Epiphone, but just a little more subtle. And then we've got CTS full-size pots. We've got an orange drop capacitor. It's also got a full off switch here. So what this means, like this, it's called a full tone. So in the 10th position, it cuts the tone right out of the circuit. So you're just hearing the pickup with no tone control. And then there's a little bit of a click you can feel in the knob. When you go to the 9th position, it functions as a regular tone knob. So that's kind of a nice little option to have. And the finish they use on these guitars is called a nitro antique hand rubbed like violin finish. So this is the same. Eastman's very well known for their super high-end violins that they've been building for a very long time. And they use the same finish on this, which is a very thin nitro finish. And it feels different than Gibson finish. It's not like as sticky, although it still has kind of that same feel. You can see like some of the pores in the wood still through this finish because it's so thin. And they do some light relicking on this to make it look a little bit more aged, so that's why they have this kind of lighter patch in the back to simulate some aging. And it's also got a one-piece Akume neck. Just a one solid piece. There's no wings or anything on this. There's our serial number. They're also using the German Faber machine heads, which is high-end machine heads as well. And they're slightly aged to look older. And the neck on this guitar, this is going after like a custom shop, you know, Les Paul Jr. And those are known to have like those really chunky 50s necks, and this is it. This neck is super chunky, super wide. It's like a baseball bat. And another cool thing about Akume is it's lighter than mahogany. So you still get that one-piece mahogany body, Akume body, one-piece Akume neck, and it's super light and resonant. So yeah, this thing is spec'd out very highly. It also comes with this super nice premium case, which feels like suede on the top, and it's got nice buckles. It's a high quality case for sure. And then it also comes with this certificate of authenticity. We can see this one was made February 2nd in 2022 with the serial number and a signature, and it comes with a limited lifetime warranty. So yeah, pretty cool. I haven't really tried many Eastmans before, so I'm excited to see how this thing plays and sounds. Alright, so decently light, weighing in at 7 pounds, 5 ounces, so just over 7 pounds. And our Lawler Dog Ear P90 is reading a 7.64. Width at the nut is a 1.73, and at the 12th fret, 2.12. Neck depth at the first fret is a very chunky 0.91, and at the 12th fret a 0.99. Here's a look at our neck profile. So yeah, it's a pretty standard like 50s rounded style C. The neck feels huge. It really does feel like a baseball bat, like a 50s style neck, like a 58 style neck. You can see by the measurements, it's wider than normal, it's thicker than normal, and you definitely feel it. It feels really big. So I want to keep the bridge and the strings on because these are brand new strings, and I'm really happy with the way this guitar is playing. So I don't really want to mess with the setup at all. So here's a look at our pickup. It's an Eastman branded Lawler pickup. It says bridge pickup, and this is the 50s dog ear pickup from Lawler. And there's a look at our route here. So yeah, this is a Akume again, one-piece body, and it looks very similar to mahogany if you look at it. Like someone told me this was mahogany, I'd believe them because it looks very, very similar. And it looks like they just removed some of the finish here for the where the pickup mounts to the body, and we've got a nice clean route in here as well. And then it's just got the plastic cover on the Lawler. It's a little bit aged too, as you can see. And then this is what it looks like on the top, just your standard P90 style pickup. On this style guitar with the dog ear P90, the pickup height is not adjustable. It's simply mounted to the body. So the only way you can adjust how far your strings are from your pickup is literally your action, like how high or low your bridge is raised. They do make, so at the lowest action that I have, it's about where I want it, but the action is quite low on this guitar. If you prefer higher action, the strings might be a little too far away from the bridge for your taste. They do make spacers though. A spacer will just sit underneath the pickup and just raise it up a little bit. But that would be an aftermarket part. Here's a better look at our Faber bridge here. So it's got a compensated shelf, so this just makes intonating the guitar a little bit easier, because it's kind of like we're on a saddle, like a Tune-o-matic, where the saddle spacings are different. This is actually built right into the tailpiece here. And you can also adjust it with these screws here, forward or backwards, to really dial in your intonation. When I picked up this guitar, I noticed, I checked the intonation right away, and it was just perfectly bang on. But these Faber bridges are German made, and they're high quality components. So you just put your string in the front and it wraps around, and then you string it up that way. So this bridge actually came with a special tool to adjust the height. This is kind of a nut on the bottom that you put with this wrench, and then you adjust the height that way. You got to make sure this is unlocked before you do it, because you can shear off those parts too. So just a thing to note. Here's the pick guard. If you were wondering what was underneath the pick guard in a Les Paul Jr., it's nothing. It's just a pick guard. But this pick guard is made of Bakelite, which is an old school type of plastic that's used on a lot of vintage guitars. So that's a pretty cool spec that they have. I think it's more brittle. And I believe these knobs have been replaced. I believe it originally came with like speed knobs, but these are more of those tapered like bell style knobs. And yeah, so on the tone, you can feel a little bit of resistance here when you move from 9 to 10. That's putting the tone pot out of circuit in the 10th position. And then at 9 down, it just functions like a normal tone pot. Here's a look at our very simple wiring. So yeah, there's two full-size CTS pots in there with an orange drop capacitor. And it does have a Switchcraft output jack. And the back cavity cover is also Bakelite or Bakelite. And then on the back of the cavity cover, it's just got our model number, serial number. So that's kind of cool. Let's have a quick look at the condition. So here's our headstock, which has that ebony veneer on there with the mother of pearl inlay. It looks good. There's a couple little scratches and scuffs here. This is a really thin finish, so any little mark shows, which kind of adds to that relic aesthetic over time, I'm sure. But yeah, it is very thin finish, and it does show a lot of different marks and stuff. Here's a look at our truss rod cover, which is ebony as well. This one's a little lighter ebony than the fingerboard or the headstock. And this is going to freak out a lot of Gibson owners. So when I first got this guitar and I looked at the truss rod, I was a little freaked out by this as well. This looks like a maxed out truss rod. This looks like there's no room to adjust it at all. So I did a little digging on the internet, and I looked at a couple of Eastman forums and stuff like that, and apparently this is just how they do it. This is normal. So it might have more thread on these truss rods than what Gibson uses. And I did check the adjustability on here. There's a lot more room for this nut to go before it maxes out. So the neck is already super nice and straight, and there is lots of room to adjust it further. So that's just kind of a thing on Eastman guitars. So don't get too freaked out if you see this on your Eastman. It's probably fine. And here's a look at our nice bone nut. It's super well cut. A nice little thing I like to see on high-end guitars is when they cut this nut, they actually angle it, the slot, towards the machine head, and that helps with tuning stability because the string doesn't bind there as easily. You don't see that on cheaper guitars, usually super high-end guitars, because this is just a nice little extra piece of work they got to do to make the tuning that much better. But yeah. Another thing about this guitar is the fretwork. These are Jescar frets, but they are just immaculately done. So I didn't do a setup on this guitar. Whoever had this before me might have known what they were doing, or I don't know if it came from the factory like this, but this thing had just a perfect setup. Just super low action, no fretting out anywhere, and the frets are just super nice and smooth. The ends are really well done. They're super nice and polished. They feel nice and slinky. And the edge of the fingerboard is super rolled too. So it just feels really nice in the hand. So yeah, very well done. And you can also see they used a nice thick piece of ebony for this. It's very thick. So it's a big thick piece of ebony, which is cool. And then condition-wise, yeah, this is a slightly relic guitar. By that, I mean it's made to look relic. It's not actually relic, so this is actually underneath the finish. This wear here, you can't really feel it. And it's a super thin finish. You can actually see some of the wood pores through the finish. So it will show every little mark, every little ding is going to show up on your guitar. Which again, would add to the relic aesthetic, but it's something to note. This is a very thin finish. A lot of people like thin finishes for, you know, the breathability of the guitar, resonates better, sustains better, that kind of a thing. But Yeah, overall, this guitar is in really good condition. There are slight few little marks on it. Like I said, very thin finish. Every little thing's gonna show. If you took your fingernail and dragged it on the finish hard enough, it's gonna make a mark. So that's how thin the finish is. But yeah, nothing on our neck. There's no dings on this guitar, just little minor things. And there's a look at our serial number. And a look at our vintage style Faber tuners, which are high-end German tuners. And here's a look at our strap buttons, very similar to like an old vintage Gibson strap buttons. So yeah, like I said, I got this guitar almost perfectly set up, so let's just check that quickly. So we'll check the setup with my notched straight edge. So yeah, this is just like a Gibson, it's a 24.75 scale with a 12-inch radius. And I've got the truss rod set so straight and tight that you can barely see any gap at all between the notch straight edge and the fingerboard. And that's great if your guitar can play like that. A lot of guitars aren't able to get that straight of a neck without buzz, but this thing has pretty immaculate fretware, so our fretwork, so I think we're going to be able to pull it off. And you can see in our third fret that when I use the third fret that the string is resting right on that first fret. So that means we've got very low action here in the cowboy chord area. That means the truss rod's set nice and tight and the neck is straight and that the nut is cut nicely. And then here at the 12th fret, we'll check our action with a depth gauge, which at the 12th fret it's showing, yeah, I've got the action very low in this guitar. So on the 12th fret it's showing a under 1 millimeter at the low E and a 0.5 at the high E. So that's very, very low action. Alright, I just checked the intonation and that is bang on as well. This can be a little tricky with this style of bridge, but not so with this guitar. It was exactly right where it needs to be. So I'm going to go ahead and run through the fingerboard and just check to see if there's any fretting out or buzzing anywhere. I like to speed up this part, but if you want to hear it in real time, just slow down your player to 25%. So yeah, super low action, no fretting out or buzzing anywhere, and super rolled fingerboard, feels super slick to play, especially with those super well buffed frets, easy to bend, and the ebony fretboard feels super smooth. And the neck is huge, it feels really big, so it's not for everybody, but I've got big hands, so it feels great for me. I'm going to be plugging into my 65 Deluxe Reverb reissue from Fender. It's modded. I've got a couple of videos on the mods that I did. Basically just a speaker replacement. I did some stuff to the cab and I removed the brake cap. I'm also going to be using this Dumble Drive, our overdrive pedal from Donner. It's a super cheap little overdrive pedal, but it sounds great and it's super transparent. And it's going to be a short little demo video. There's not much to go through here. I'll show it with the tone circuit off mode on, and then I can do it with full tone and then roll down a little bit on clean and dirty. it sounds great, clean. It's got a really nice bell-like quality that I wasn't expecting. So it's got tons of sustain too. You can really feel it vibrating in the neck and just resonating through the whole body. It's a really nice sound, clean. It can get a little ice picky, I find, at times, but you can tame that by just rolling down the tone a little bit. So the tone off would be great for like a lead or something like that, and then maybe tone at about 7 would be great for pretty much anything else. I'm gonna go ahead and plug in a little bit of overdrive and see how that sounds. Alright, final thoughts on the Eastman SB55V. Well, I'll put it this way. I did not plan on keeping this guitar, but I am. And it just plays and sounds amazing, and it just checks all the boxes for me. It's lightweight, it's got a big neck on it, which I love. It's really hard to find a big neck on guitars these days, I find, especially on quality guitars. for some reason. They all have really thin necks. I know a lot of custom shop models have really thick necks, but again, those are super expensive. Yeah, this feels like a custom shop level instrument. It's got just amazing specs, one-piece body, one-piece neck. It's super resonant. It has tons of sustain. The fretwork is like immaculate. It plays lower than most of my other guitars without any issue at all. I love Lawler pickups, and this one is great. This is a 50s style. The only criticism I have on it maybe is it's a little bit too trebly in the, you know, tone off position. It's a little ice picky, but you can really tame that with the tone knob if you need to, and that's really great for having that super trebly sound. Is great for leads too. It really cuts through the mix, so you can definitely make it work for you. And the other thing is the neck might be too big for some. Like if you've got small hands, I would steer clear because this is a really beefy neck. But yeah, it just looks and sounds great. It's got all those high-end specs. It's got the full-size pots with the orange drop capacitor. It's got the high-end Faber German tailpiece. It's got the high-end Lawler pickup. It's got the Bakelite pickguard, one-piece body. Super nice, thick piece of ebony for the fingerboard. Real mother-of-pearl inlays. The fretwork is just awesome. The nut is bone and super well cut. You've got your ebony truss cover. You've got your Faber vintage style machine heads that are aged. And the finish feels great on this guitar. It's not sticky like some glossy necks. It's actually nice and smooth. And it's super thin, so it lets the guitar breathe, and super resonant. And yeah, this is a really great guitar. And Eastman is putting out some really nice stuff these days for, you know, not huge prices. So definitely check them out. If you have one come up near you, I would definitely jump on it, because I don't know if these low prices on these guitars are going to last. But anyway, that's going to be it for today. Thank you for tuning in to Beckler Guitars and Repair, and I'm going to have more for you really soon. Thanks a lot.